what are you making it mean, right? Let's say you say, you know what, we have this antique, it's been in the family for generations, right? And it's still in good condition, it's not falling apart, all the things, right? And you would really love for your kids to take that on, after you pass away, or maybe even if you're downsizing, you don't have room for it anymore. You're downsizing, you want your kids to take on this item. They don't want it. They don't want it. They're like, that's awesome, but I don't want that thing. Now, they have their own reasons, right? And we don't really even need to get into that. They have their own reasons, but I want you to think about, what are you making it mean that they say no? You are listening to the Decluttering Club Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they have energy for what matters most. In today's episode of the Decluttering Club Podcast, we're going to talk about what to do if your kids don't want your stuff. This is such a pain point for so many people that I talk to, right? They're like, oh my goodness, I have invested my attention, my life. I have spent my life collecting, right? We're usually talking about collections or heirlooms, or maybe it's like family treasures that have been passed down. They have been collecting these things and honoring and enjoying these things, usually, maybe not always, but enjoying these things in their lives. And they're like, oh no, what happens when I'm gone? My kids don't want this stuff. And this is a problem. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. So first of all, I think it's really important to realize that sometimes we are collecting things. Like, why are we collecting things? Or why did we save this item or these items? Why? Right? Really get specific and clear about why. Sometimes the answer is, I have this because somebody told me this was important and this was my job. I'm supposed to be the keeper of XYZ, right? Whether it's the heirloom furniture or it's the china or whatever. It's the documents, who knows, right? If someone told you that that was your job, but you're not on board with it, like, it is okay to say, you know what, that's not my job anymore. Like, it's a lovely idea. It doesn't mean the idea is a bad one, but you don't have to accept it. You can change your mind, right? You can make a new choice. That is always available to you. And it doesn't matter if you've been doing that job for one day or for 50 years. I don't care. You can make a new choice today if you want to. Okay? It's really important to acknowledge that. And you might be like, no, I can't. But what you're really telling me is that, no, you want that job. You are saying yes to that job. You want to keep those items. And if that is the case, then amazing. If that is the case, let's honor that. Let's own that. You don't have to keep those things. You want to keep them. You want to be, to be honoring those and being the curator or the museum director. That's a beautiful thing. Don't diminish that by saying you have to, right? Things that we do out of obligation are rarely things that we enjoy doing. We want to be intentional with our choices. Even when sometimes there are choices that are hard to make, we still want to, be completely on board with our own agency in those choices. Okay. So you want to make sure, like, why are you keeping the things that you're keeping, right? Get clear about it. And then I think the key to this conundrum is to realize that you have your own priorities. You have your own life. You have your own tastes and wants and likes and dislikes. And guess what? So do your kids. So do your kids. They're not living your life. They didn't grow up when you grew up. They didn't grow up the way that you did. And so of course they're going to have different priorities and wants and likes and dislikes. Of course they are. How could they not? That would be bizarre, right? And so what are you making it mean, right? Let's say you say, you know what? We have this antique. It's been in the family for generations, right? And it's still in good condition. It's not falling apart, all the things, right? And you would really love for your kids to take that on, after you pass away, or maybe even if you're downsizing, you don't have room for it anymore. You're downsizing. You want your kids to take on this item, but they don't want it. They don't want it. They're like, that's awesome, but I don't want that thing. Now they have their own reasons, right? And we don't really even need to get into that. They have their own reasons, but I want you to think about, what are you making it mean that they say no? What are you making it mean that they don't want to take on the care of that item? Does that mean that they don't care about the family? Does that mean they don't love you? Does it mean that it was a waste for you to do it? I certainly hope not, right? But that's kind of what we do, isn't it? It's kind of where we go. Oh, well, if they say no, then it means that I wasted all my time. Like, why did I bother? Right? We go there. Well, if that is what's coming up for you, then you want to answer that question. Why did you bother to keep that item? Did you just want to keep it so you could pass it on? Right? Are we just passing these things on? No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think we are maintaining these items. We are honoring these treasures because we love them, because we love what they stand for. And whether or not someone else takes them when we can't anymore doesn't mean anything about what we're doing right now. You see what I mean there? Like, you can honor the person or the item or the memory. You can honor it with your actions. And it doesn't really matter what anyone else does. Right? And it doesn't have to mean that your kids don't love you. It doesn't have to mean that they don't care about the family. Maybe they don't. I don't know. Right? But you don't have to make it automatically mean that. It doesn't have to mean that they don't care about history and all that. I think that's where people go a lot of time. They think, oh, kids these days, they just don't care about anything. They don't care about history. I don't think that's true at all. I think they care in their own ways. They want to make their own ways. And doesn't that make sense? Right? Isn't that okay? Doesn't that make sense to us that they would get to choose how they honor the past and how they look to the future? I think so. Wouldn't it be a shame if the way that we acted in the world was just by bringing things from the past into the future and never creating anything new? That would be a horrible waste, right? So just be careful when you start thinking about, oh, my kids don't want my stuff. It doesn't mean that your stuff is worthless. It doesn't mean that the work that you put into it has been in vain, right? I want you to be all on board with the things that you have in your home for you, for today, not for 100 years, not for your kids or your grandkids. Right now, if they are, amazing. That's awesome. But either way, I want you to do it for you for today, because it's important to you, not because you want it to be important to someone else. When we have expectations of other people, when we want them to act or feel a certain way or to say something, we have those expectations, we are frequently disappointed, right? And then we try to control them, right? And then what ends up happening frequently is that they end up lying to us because they don't want to make us unhappy. So we have this horrible, messy businesses going on just because we have these expectations. Now, if we just drop the expectations and we're like, okay, if you want these things, I love it. It's amazing. And if you don't want them, that's great too. I want you to do the things that you want, just like I'm doing the things that I want to do. I think this is another thing that comes up frequently for people, is that they feel like they accepted heirlooms or treasures from their relatives in the past out of guilt or obligation. And so they want to pass that on. Well, I took this on, so now it's your turn, right? And that just does not end well. That doesn't feel good. And I highly recommend that you avoid that whenever possible. So the answer here is to notice the expectations that you're having of your kids or of other people. Notice what those are. And then, if possible, I just want you to let them go. Let those people be who they are. Let them want what they want. Because guess what? We can't change what they want. We could try, but as far as I know, it doesn't work. And just let them be who they are. And then you get to be who you are. And then it all works out beautifully. Like, our stuff is not going to last forever. I'm sorry to tell you. I don't care how well we take care of things. None of this stuff is going to be around in a couple 100 years. Right? So let's enjoy it right now. Let's be intentional with our choices. Let's preserve the past if that's important to us. Absolutely. But let's also leave room for the present and the future. That is why we declutter, my friends. We are decluttering so that we have room for what matters most. And if we're so busy trying to preserve the past, then guess what? We are missing out on today. That's what I have for you today. Have a good one, everyone. See you later.
That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review. It would really help us to get the word out. And if you'd like to continue your decluttering journey with us, find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Decluttering Club, or on our website at thedeclutteringclub.com.